Niels, and this is going to be an interesting topic today. Before we start, can you provide a brief background of yourself before we start to talk about why mindset matters for supply chain and S&OP?
Yeah, of course, Dustin. Good to talk to you too. Well, my background, I've been in supply chain for about 20 years. Worked across many different countries, about 12, 15 different countries. As well in line organization as consultant. I'm also a mental toughness, an accredited mental toughness coach and founder of Mental Toughness Online, and also author of self-help guides on mental toughness and illustrated children's book on mental strength.
Well, my first question is, why do we have to move on from the traditional S&OP discussions to a more looking at how it can support the company culture and team effectiveness and meaning?
Yeah, just a bit of context there. I've always wondered my whole career why it's so hard for people to work together. And, S&OP is trying to make people bring together. But often, if the process is implemented, it is still hard to make it work. And often that's because of the behaviors and the mindset of people. So I actually think, and often we say, S&OP is dependent on the company culture. My premise is we have to use S&OP to influence and change the company culture for the better.
Can you talk a little bit about how to implement this and do it effectively?
Yes, of course. I wrote about that in my foresight articles as well. But it's about understanding, first of all, what are effective behaviors for S&OP. But you can extend it a little bit. Effective behaviors are effective for S&OP. They're also good for employee well-being and performance. So actually, it's a double whammy. If you define the right behaviors to support S&OP, and you start incorporating them from the executive level in S&OP and measure them and ask feedback on them, then you start to influence your company culture. S&OP needs to have a certain amount of maturity, of course. First, you need to have a level of maturity. So S&OP is seen as an important business governance model. Only then it can start to influence the company culture. But once you have that maturity and you define behaviors and you commit to displaying those behaviors to S&OP, you actually influence the company culture for the better, which in return improves your S&OP.
Any specific examples that you could share of some success?
Yes, of course. Mainly I work myself on workshops that improve trust. So with the leadership team, we defined what type of behaviors improve trust. And trust improves S&OP, of course, but it also improves psychological safety for employees, which improves their performance, but also well-being. So with a leadership team of 40, of the top 40 leaders, I did workshops to define, how can we improve trust and collaboration? And we distilled a couple of key themes and behaviors, which the leadership team committed to improve trust. And we started to ask feedback on that in the S&OP meetings. So slowly but surely, more and more of those conversations were starting, and that started to impact the openness of the meeting, and the willingness of people to provide feedback and challenge each other.
Do you have any final recommendations?
Well, my recommendation is really to start thinking beyond traditional S&OP, which has been around for 30 years. I still hear a lot of talk about forecast accuracy and those type of measurements, which are great. But if we want to engage the real executive, the real senior leaders, we have to give them more meaning to the meeting, to the S&OP cycle. If we can provide a means to influence their company culture for the better, their employee engagement and well-being for the better, we define a whole new area where S&OP can be involved and can influence a business, which will increase executive engagement.
Thanks for sharing today, Niels.
Thanks, Dustin.